The clock just struck 2. That is our scheduled time for the meeting. This meeting is now hereby called to order. First item is citizens' comment. Mr. Sanders said that he received an email he wanted to read.
Yes, I received an email today regarding a citizen's comment to the CRA board. It says, "Dear CRA, good afternoon. I apologize I cannot attend today's CRA meeting in person. Instead, I would like you to hear my thoughts in a letter. There may be multiple conflicts of interest between council members and husbands married to the council
Mr.
member.
Sanders,
The different agencies were represented by multiple lawyers from the same law firm, Blaylock and Walters, PA. The council person is married to one lawyer who represents the city CRA legal interest. That being said, I will be
Mr.
filing
Sanders,
another ethics
Mr.
complaint,
Sanders.
submitting new information to the commission,
This is
as
not-
well as
this
will
is
be
not what you
separate
said was gonna
separate
be.
ethics violations
I
for
thought
each
you were gonna
city
do this in good
Bradenton
faith, sir.
council person and CRA board members who fails to at least address this matter in today's meeting. I will be requesting, as per Florida Statute 119, for the minutes of this recordings in the meetings."
Back
And
to
I
business, consent agenda items, consent agenda item, looks like A.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes?
I believe there's citizen comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am sorry, folks. Is there any other citizens' comments that are not on the agenda?
No.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Karen, for that correction. Going back then, the consent agenda.
A consent agenda is the minutes from, I had the minutes in my packet of August 24th. Yeah, okay, here.
Yeah.
Minutes from August 24th. I'd like to pull that for discussion.
Okay, that's a motion.
I didn't know you, okay.
Well,
I can't pull the minutes for
normally,
normally?
Usually if there's discussion, there's a motion and a second to approve the minutes or disapprove the minutes, and that's when the discussion is supposed to take place by Robert's Rules of Order, but
Okay,
you all can do
that's-
whatever you want.
well, there you go. So, there needs to be, so is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to, oh wait, it's just item A, correct?
Yes, item A, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, that's a motion and a second. You have a comment, sir?
Yes. The minutes of the August 24th CRA board meeting, we had a motion to approve Realize Bradenton, which our director said there was a conflict by the conflict attorney. The conflict attorney resigned, and Mrs. Barnaby, which her husband had,
Wait, is it-
the law firm had the conflict, made the motion to approve it. Second, Member Coker, and I believe that that was a violation of a conflict that was addressed by the director, and it should have been accused themselves of voting.
Point of order.
Yes.
I think we can only just say whether or not the minutes are accurate. I don't think we can get it back into discussion on this other stuff. So I believe they're accurate.
Well, I don't believe they're accurate because they didn't follow the tape that has that in it, and I have, you have to, I'm asking it to be put in because that was what we discussed.
I'll defer it to Ms. Kaiser because she's the one that verbatim listens to that, and I did ask her to make sure that all the motions, she double-checked before we put them on the agenda, but so I'll let Ms. Kaiser address that.
So we did review, or I did review, by listening to the audio and that's what I base my notes on, or minutes. I then took them to the executive director. We listened to them together, and that is the motion, and that is the discussion.
Well, there was a discussion around that, that's not true.
Yes, you
That discussion around that, I've listened to the tape. The discussion around that was the conflict, which is Mrs. Barnaby was very upset with, and actually directed her comments kind of toward me, because Ms. Voss had been accused of resigning before because of me over the sale of City Hall. And so this was the same exact thing, and so it should be in the record, because I and Mrs. Barney had an email with no exchange, just me to her, of the concern that happened right after that at your office, Mrs. Siren.
Okay, well, the minutes on this item, which is item 5A, was for the agreement with Realize Bradenton. So,
Which our
Which was-
conflict
which
attorney
was-
said was a conflict.
which
to
was
resign.
unanimously approved 5-0. So we have a motion and a second on the minutes. You could vote
Wait.
no, sir. All in favor, say aye.
Oh, wait a minute, this is on all
Aye.
the minutes except B. This was on, only on item A.
Yeah, that's all we have.
I voted, I mean, I think it's, call the question, I mean, or I voted, whatever.
Well,
I voted already.
The motion was made to approve the minutes. And
Yes.
seconded, and there was discussion.
The-
So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed, yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, all CRAs. Number 4A, accomplishment report.
Good afternoon. Earlier today, I sent an email out regarding the accomplishments that we have, that we have achieved. What I've been telling our staff is we do a lot of work. We finish one project, we move on to the next, and we don't sometimes take the time to celebrate our achievements. So now, as we're getting more fully staffed and we have support, we're going to start doing monthly reports. I think that will be not only for the CRA board and for us to capture what we've done in the last month, but also share with the community what the CRA is doing, and so that they know where where the money is going and where the efforts are taking place at. So I'm gonna, and I also had a few attachments in there. So the first attachment that I gave is, and we're not gonna go in detail. If you want, we can meet, but we have 53 items and activities that, as of September 30th, the CRA staff were part of. Some of them are very small, are smaller, may take a few hours to complete. Some of them take days to complete. So this is just an effort to show how much we do and how proud I am of my staff for everything that they do on a daily basis. As part of the monthly report for November, you will see the different events that we attended. So November 3rd, we held the 9th Avenue West Commercial Corridor Revitalization Community Meeting in the Central CRA. On November 4th, we had the Festival of the Skeletons in the Village of the Arts. And on 11/23, we had the second event for Main Street Live. And here are some pictures. The top two are from our Central CRA. The majority of you were able to attend. And on the bottom, we have the Festival of the Skeletons in the Village. It was actually probably, they said, their largest event to date, so they were very thankful for the support that the CRA did. I'm not going to go through the RFQ for the Mineral Springs Park because Ms. Farmer is going to address it right after. We are working on removing the mural on the 14th Street substation. We're working with the school board to try to bring an art initiative where the kids, there's going to be a contest and see how we can participate and celebrate the art of the students. In the 14th Street District, we worked on the Village of the Arts, on the former green properties. Again, what I love to see is the before and after pictures. One of the main reasons is removing slum and blight, and we did exactly that with the purchase of these 5 properties. So on the left, you see the back of one of them. I'm not even going to go into the state that we had seen them when we purchased them, and then we removed them, we demolished the buildings, and now we have a clean slate to decide what we're going to do with these.
Can I have your agenda? Can I see a copy of your agenda?
Also Astoria on 9th, which is an 120-unit senior affordable housing project. We also, like I mentioned, celebrate the Festival of the Skeletons. We did a survey to kind of see what the public would like us to see with the 5 properties. So 32 voted for community garden, 28 for parking, 25 for an event space, and public art and housing. So these are some ideas that actually staff is going to be working with Public Works to come back with you and give you some more information to give us further guidance. The Met, 199-unit workforce housing project. Mr. Gabodi actually is going to come in January and give a brief update. But as you can see, for December, they're going to be continuing construction and framing. And they're going to be installing a fence wrap, and it's going to include the work from artists from the Village of the Arts. Riverview 6, 80-unit affordable housing project that we're moving along. The closing is scheduled actually at the end of this month. So, and that's in the Bradenton CRA. Main Street Light event, again, was very successful.
That's not how you do.
Here we have, we were told that approximately 5,000 people attended the event on November 23rd. We see on the bottom, I was told the Public Works employees worked so hard that they were going up and down the street, cleaning, to make sure we kept everything in great condition. In the Central CRA, Mr. Mignon, our CRA manager, evaluated at the last meeting the CRA-owned properties. So we're going to be working further for that to do an RFP to see what we're going to end up doing with these 3 properties. Habitat for Humanity gave a presentation, so that's another agency that we're going to be working with to see if we can promote home ownership in the Central CRA. 9th Avenue commercial corridor revitalization project. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in another meeting. So again, this is just a quick capture to say that we are doing a lot of things, and like I said, you'll be expecting this on a monthly basis. Today, I joined the CRA on December 14, 2020, and 2 years here.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday! Yes, thank you, thank you, and I was very humbled to see so many of our community partners congratulate us, come back and say, how much they enjoy working with myself, with the team. I mean, some of the comments literally brought me to tears. So I'm just thankful for this community. I love this community, and so I won't go through them, but you have it in your package, and that's it for this item, unless you have any questions for me.
I don't have questions, but Chair, may I
Yes,
just
ma'am.
make a comment? You got me at CRA is doing these things. I have to say, I totally appreciate you and staff, because the blighted area that we mainly have to focus on, unfortunately for me, it's in my ward. And not to say that other parts of the city doesn't need or deserve some assistance or some tender loving care. I'm just happy to see that as a CRA board and department, that we are looking at those areas, because for quite some time, we have made our downtown and our riverfront beautiful. And not to say you can't improve on that, but 2 years ago when I was running, a lot of the community was saying, well, what happened to the CRA board and CCRA board? And that was reestablished. And Jade, I know you see the benefit of it. The meetings that you've had in the community, that wasn't taking place. Not to slight anybody who was here before you, because that person had to wear like 12 hats. We had to hire quite a few people to just do that job, but to do, so there are people who come to me, contrary to the belief of the loudest person in what is considered our community. There are a lot of people that see the change. They want to be more involved. That's what we saw in the last meeting. So kudos to you, and I'm looking forward to more.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Comment, everything she said is true and more. The CRA has went through a great transformation in the 2 years you've been here, and with your education and background and prior CRA experience. And as you know, when you came in, our records weren't up to par. There was missing information, still missing information of things that were done in the previous 10, 15 years that I'm still looking for and will be looking for on some of the transactions. So having one person that was in charge of the city and the CRA and multiple other departments were very stressful to the employees and stressful to the council to get all the answers with independent information. But what I want to ask you is the minutes that I had for this meeting had item B, employment agreement for the CRA executive director, which is you. And I haven't had I understand there was an email that took that off, and I'm concerned as to why it took it off, because you're the only director in the city of Bradenton that does not have an employment agreement, as all others do, to my knowledge. And with the recent threat against your employment, I considered this something that should be done, and I advocated for it, and I would like to see this done, and I put this, but it's on the agenda, so it wasn't changed timely for the public notice. You can't change it, I guess you can drop anything, but why drop an employment agreement in the 11th hour before a meeting? That should be for protection of an employee.
Mr. Sanders, I'm going to steer you back to the agenda. We're on all CRA's accomplishment reports. So we just heard a very positive report of what's been done over the last 2 years. And I don't really want to see any negativity spun into this for any reason.
Well, no, I'm questioning.
Well, sir, it was obviously pulled by our director. So I guess what?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to go make my comments to the report,
Okay,
get back on
very good,
track.
very good.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just curious if she got
I'm
threatened.
I'm mostly pleased. I want to reiterate what Councilman Coachman said about the CRA board and how, and I think the accomplishments show that. But I would be remiss if I didn't say I want us to still try and get those other two CRAs with the same kind of input from the stakeholders and the community. So I do think it shows in the accomplishments that we see here, and you should be applauded for that, so thank you.
Thank you. And also to mention, I'm actually drafting the bylaws, what's going to come before you, hopefully in January, so that we can establish 2 new CRA boards, because that's what the board directed. So I just need to finish and work with our attorney to make sure that it's legal and looks good before it comes to you, but it's in the works. So.
I just have to continue beating my drum.
I was
So-
trying to beat it with you. I just want to apologize. I think I referred to you by your first name
Oh, I
a
don't-
moment ago. Just wanted
That's
to
fine.
clarify that.
No offense.
Councilwoman.
No offense taken.
Okay, and to wrap this up, I too want to compliment you, Katerina, and the staff for 2 very successful years. I mean, I know where we were when we started and where we are now, and, you know, I'm just very proud of what we've done, and most of all, on this page of the 14th Street sorter, when you see what was there at the green property and what it looks like now, that's what it's all about, and I look forward to the day that the bottom picture of bogeys is gone. I mean, we need to get the art off of there, wipe that clean, next step. I think it's already been voted on, so.
Moving, yep.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Katerina.
Thank you.
Update on Mineral Springs Public Art.
Hello. Well, a year ago in November, I started, so I'm really happy to be here too. So I'm going to give you an update on the RFQ for the Mineral Springs Park. And first I want to start by thanking Tammy Winton Spearman and Nicholas Toth. She's the purchasing director, and he's one of the purchasing people there. And they have helped us a lot in giving us guidance and making this process easier for our board members who are actually going to be the evaluation committee for us. So tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time, the deadline is up for everyone. So on Monday we had 51 entries, and Tuesday we had 61 entries, and this morning, well, as of 1 o'clock today, we had 71 entries. So that's a lot. So we've got maybe another 24 hours. Who knows how many more we'll have, but that is a lot of entries. So anyway, we're excited about that. And we're going to have a meeting on January 31st for that. What will happen is the board, we use Cafe, and Cafe is wonderful. Actually, that's where the only ones I've ever noticed, I don't think there were any others, but that's how they found out about our call was Cafe. So it's a very good choice for us to have made that. So they will go online and they will look at all of these entries and make scoring. So when that's done, that's when we'll meet on January 31st and we'll review all of them. And then that's when, we'll have our first round.
Awesome.
So kind of exciting. Any questions? I just want to make one more comment. Patrick Groff, you were my chair, or not my chair. Well, you were my chair, but I mean, you were my councilman, for the last 9 years. So I just wanted to thank you for your service.
Thank you, Gene. It's been a pleasure. Any other on the public art? Otherwise move down to 9th Avenue West Corridor Report.
Business Flair unfortunately had a conflict, then they couldn't be here to present. So I just wanted to make sure you received the report, that you had enough time, yes, to between now and January, when we're gonna try to get them to come and present. But some of I just very quickly, I'm gonna go through some of the things that they mentioned. First of all, I wanna say this is the beginning. This report is not gonna be something that we, one and done and it stays on a shelf. So this is truly the beginning of a process to truly revitalize MLK. And so I thought the consultant did a great job capturing some recommendations. The focus area is 9th Avenue. Can we put it on the?
I'm trying to.
Thank you. It's again 9th Avenue West, and the boundaries east-west are 9th Street East through 9th Street West. They made several observations, and they gave some recommendations about what can be done in the short term, what can be done in the medium term. So short term is like immediately the next couple of months, easy to do, not a lot of money. Medium term ideas are approximately 2 years, 2 to 3 years, and then long-term ideas 3 years plus. So They talked about targeting vacant property that the CRA owns. They talked about activating spaces, so potentially doing some events, farmers markets, food trucks, outdoor vendor spaces. Look at the abandoned buildings for adaptive reuse, invest in the streetscape, and partner with churches and look at these underutilized lots and continue the programming and events of those spaces. What I love to see them actually capture, even though they're not here, but they talked about historical charm. We have that area is so rich in history, and so I would love to see us find a way to capture it and continue promoting it. Invest again in the streetscape, talk about the partnerships again, improving the residential inventory. And it was interesting to look at the different lots and who owns them. So when I looked at the ownership by block, there were 9 churches, 16 parcel IDs that are 8.6 acres, just from 9th Street East to 9th Street West. So I think that's something. I know a couple of them are not even functional. We tried going and reaching out to them, and nobody's there. So I think that there's an opportunity to work with our religious organizations there and see how we can together do something. So again, I just wanted to do a very high level of what this report is about, and again, Business Flair will do a more thorough explanation when they come. But if you do have any comments, any questions, either today or you can email me so that when they present that we can address them.
Anybody?
Thank you. This started as a conversation, and here we go. Thank you.
It's good. Well, and the one thing, I mean, going back to accomplishments, that when we were told by the auditors that we were sitting on too much cash, and so we paid the loans off. So in the CCRA and the 14th Street CRA, what had been done is that by sitting on the cash and paying the loans, that was the money that was that could be used to do things like this. So that was one of the big corrections that we made. So anyway, it's just a point of how when you start doing things correctly, it starts working better. Okay. Next is meeting dates for 23.
I have a question about, we're making a decision for people that aren't sitting on the board yet. Should we push making this decision to January, or have you had discussions with the people that are coming on?
I have not had discussions. Normally that is done in November, but since we pushed it to December, the only thing we can absolutely do that, I would need the date for January, so at least we have one date, and then we can go on with the rest, if that's what the board wants.
And actually, that was something I thought of, that I shouldn't be voting on your meeting dates.
Also, I want to say we gave you an updated one that has a teal color, the one with more color on it. So the teal color, I reached out to METV. So in addition to Wednesdays that would be available, they found a couple of Tuesdays and Thursdays that they may be available also. So you have all these options in teal to decide on. So I will forward that to Mr. Kramer and Mrs. Moore, and then get feedback, and maybe in January we can discuss what works for everybody, if that's, or it's up to you. I look for your guidance.
Sure, come on. But we certainly do need to, if nothing is done, choose a January date.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Kramer, Councilman-elect. They're on the same dates as I checked earlier, all the council meetings, correct?
In the past, they've been. At the last CRA board meeting, there was one comment that maybe we should look at other dates, and that's why I just wanted for you to have options as to what you prefer.
And that was because the meetings were running so close together, right? That's why we.
And it
thought
becomes
about-
this all long day, yeah.
Yeah, that makes such a long day.
But I'm conscious that you have school, so,
Yeah, well, fortunately, And unfortunately, I do have some flexibility in terms of scheduling my groups. I just might have to shift, but they prefer for me to, if I'm going to make that shift, it be permanent, not
Yes.
just swing back and forth.
So, I mean, and maybe if it was more towards the end of the day, would that be easier for you than if it was, or first thing in the morning? I don't, you know.
Whatever, I will go with the majority.
I just, for me personally, the long one day is a challenge for me. I'd rather have 2 days, and even if they're full, you know, as they need to be, but it just would be easier for me to have them on 2 different days.
Yeah. And
But I know that becomes an issue for METV, but,
Well, your first suggestion was that the new board can vote on this, and
Mhm.
obviously there's input.
Yeah, I'll just say that we're okay if we want to have the meeting on the 18th, January 18th, and
Okay.
then we can address future dates at that time.
okay, that's fine with me.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we hold our meeting in January 2023 at 2 o'clock on the 18th, and that the new board would address a permanent calendar at that meeting. Is that,
I'll second
everybody
that.
comfortable with that?
Yeah, I'll second
Okay.
that.
Yeah. Is there a you second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Now to the Bradenton CRA funding request for Arts Center Manatee.
Well, this is going to be the fun part of our meeting today. So we have we have Ms. Carla Neerman, Executive Director of Arts Center Manatee, and they have a funding request. We have given you an agenda memo, and I have to say Ms. Neerman did a great job on putting the request. It was nothing, sometimes you have to work with the request that people bring you in, but whatever she submitted, you all got it with no changes or anything. So I will let Ms. Neerman make her presentation and hear back from you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Happy holidays to you all. I truly appreciate the opportunity to present to you today. I am Carla Neerman, the Executive Director of Arts Center Manatee. So you have seen our proposal. You've heard our story about this exciting project. So today I will do my best to respect your valuable time. We are having technical difficulties, huh? Thank you. So the Arts Center began in downtown Bradenton in 1937. We have endured wars, a depression, several recessions, and different locations that we had to move in the downtown. Through it all, our mission has remained the same: to provide a welcoming, professional environment, to educate novice and experienced artists of all ages, to provide galleries to exhibit and market original artwork, and to enhance the visual arts in Manatee County. Our exhibits, which change monthly, are local, regional, national, and international shows. We offer over 400 classes a year, and they are taught by 45 instructors. The classes are for ages 4 and up. I think 99 is the oldest so far that I'm aware of, which include both day and evening classes in drawing, jewelry, glass, mixed media, painting, pottery, and sculpture. We also have this amazing gift shop that has handcrafted items that our guests can purchase original artwork for a broad range of prices. Our Arts and Healing program, which is free to participants, currently targets those afflicted with dementia, and we've just added stroke. We are a staff of 5 full-time employees and 1 part-time contractor. We are open 6 days and sometimes 7 days a week. So in 2018, it became apparent that we needed to move forward. We were challenged with meeting the demands of our community due to space. And while our building, built in 1955, has served us for over 63 years, It was tired, and rehabbing was just not a viable option. We looked at numerous options, including moving out of the downtown area, but we had a deep desire to stay downtown. It was our home. We needed to stay. We were fortunate to receive a donation from Bradenton Riverfront Partners of land, which would allow us to build an iconic building. Our new building will double our space. It'll allow greater offerings to our community, and it will allow us to serve more young artists. Our kids' space is going to triple in size. The design has already won an AIA award. So let's look at some pictures. This first image is of the entry into the building. You will see on the right here, there are doors that are going to be pivoting on a center fulcrum, which will allow you, when you walk in that building, to immediately see art, which if you've been to our building now, is an experience you have. This is our site plan for the new building. Just to orient everyone, 9th Street West is on the left, and Avenue of the Arts, or 3rd Avenue West, is on the bottom. We will build our new building and move into this beautiful building. This is our existing footprint, the blue box, or the blue outlined blocks. This is the 3rd Avenue side. This is where our galleries will be located. You will notice there are only transom windows. This will protect the artwork from sunlight and allow greater linear space to hang art. The exterior here is a pre-patinaed copper. This is a courtyard that delineates the space between the galleries and some of our classrooms. This will be yet another gathering space, a space for rental, and allow guests and visitors to view what is going on the studios, which will have glass windows. Once we have moved into the new building, we will raise the old building. The corner of 9th Street West and Avenue of the Arts will become a community green space and sculpture garden. It will provide a natural connection between the Riverwalk and the downtown. We believe also this space will provide our community with a welcoming entry into Bradenton as you come over the Green Bridge and satisfy those who desire walkability and gathering spaces. You may recall from the last City Council meeting, there were several comments on maintaining green spaces. We agree. We need to be mindful of the delicate balance between development and community gathering spaces. This greenscape and sculpture garden is a landscape rendering only, but the concept is that step ladder landscaping that you build up from the sidewalk. This is the location where our property is in the Bradenton CRA. The center attracts between 30 and 50,000 visitors a year. They range from 41 states and 8 countries. The guests and students come to our downtown, where they shop, they eat, they consume fuel, and they sleep, all contributing to our local economy. For instance, we currently have the International Scratchboard Society on display. 43 scratchboard artists came in a week and a half ago, spending an average of $865 each in our downtown area. Combined, their spending was over $37,000 over a long 3-day weekend. This is one weekend in the year. Our farthest student that we're aware of today is from Dubai, who came in for a 3-day workshop. The instructor that I flew in for that workshop, we flew in from Australia. So as we continue to bring in high caliber exhibits and workshops, we attract guests that spend money in our downtown core, strengthening our local economy. The Bradenton CRA's mission is to enhance the riverfront downtown as a beautiful, high-density, mixed-use area that is livable and walkable for residents and visitors. This project aligns with your mission. The Bradenton CRA's executive summary says that downtown Bradenton has a tremendous future as a center for urban living with a rich cultural arts and natural resources. With a coordinated plan and tools for success, downtown Bradenton can ensure its potential as a livable city in which young professionals, retirees, families, and visitors can come live, work, play, and visit. This project aligns with your executive summary. While we are a nonprofit, specifically, we do not pay taxes. A strong arts and culture community attracts tourists, new businesses, and residents to our area. Our taxpayers want these assets in their community. In fact, it is not uncommon. In fact, even today, someone came to me and said that the Art Center is why they moved to this area. In other words, you need to give taxpayers a reason to land here and a reason to stay here. I believe taxpayers want their city leaders to support assets such as the Art Center. The Art Center has never asked the CRA for funding. Today, your support is vital to our success. I ask you to invest in it. I respectfully request you approve funding of $600,000 over a 3-year span. This iconic building will be an immense, impressive gateway into our beautiful downtown. I thank you for your time today. I welcome any questions.
Comments, questions?
Ma'am, did you get the deed? Was a deed transferred in the Art Center's name?
It's in process. Ed Vogler from Bradenton Riverfront Partners is working on that as we speak.
Okay, the reason I asked, because I went and looked and I didn't see it.
Yeah,
so-
no,
And that was my,
it's in process.
that was my
We are
hang-up,
anxious.
that you
That's
own
okay.
it.
Yeah.
And it becomes yours.
Yes,
So that nobody
exactly.
can mess with it in the future.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
thank
very
you.
helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
And Chairman, if I may clarify for the record, because I know in the past we had discussed providing funding and support for the new structure, but after doing extensive research, we found out the new structure is not in a CRA, but the existing structure and parcel ID, which is parcel ID 324-900-1759, is within the CRA boundaries. So the request from the Art Center is that the support is in this parcel that is existing within CRA boundaries. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Very good, yeah, and I know that we've discussed this several times, and that was one of the, we have to make sure that when we do things, that, you know, because I think that the support of the board has been with you the whole time. We just had to figure out how to do it correctly.
Yes, I understand. That's important, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, it's very important. Yeah. So I have some public comment cards, but we do a motion first?
No, you can take public comment anytime you want to, but we should have a motion if we're going to discuss, but you can take public comment anytime.
Okay, well,
It's up to you. You run the meeting.
well, I try to be accommodating. So, well, let's just go through the comment. I think we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, so if you want to come forward, please don't say the same thing that the last person just said, so we can keep it. So let's start with Kathy Simon McDonald.
Good afternoon. I'm Kathy Simon McDonald, and I live at 6460 Morning Dove Drive in Bradenton. I'm an internationally competitive and award-winning watercolor artist. My husband and I bought our first condominium in Bradenton in 1991, and initially we were snowbirds, but in 2015 we became full-time residents. When I retired from working for 35 years as a special ed teacher, middle school special ed teacher, I quickly realized I needed to retire to something. Art Center Manatee provided the answer when I started taking watercolor classes and workshops. In those workshops, I made and met friends and artists who traveled from Lithia, Bradenton, St. Pete, Venice, and Sarasota, just to name a few places, to partake in classes and workshops at the Art Center. During full-day workshops, we usually ordered food in for lunch from local restaurants, and frequently after class, we would go out for supper or have a glass of wine before traveling home. Art Center Manatee has been a mecca for artists working in many different disciplines, both in Bradenton and from other communities. At a recent 3-day watercolor workshop, there were participants who traveled from North Carolina, Georgia, and several from the east coast of Florida. They stayed in our hotels, our bed and breakfasts, ate in our restaurants, and shopped in our stores. For me, Art Center Manatee was one of the main reasons my husband and I sold our home up north and bought our present condominium in Bradenton. In 2019, I won Best in Show in the American Watercolor Society International Show, which is considered the premier watercolor society in the world. Art Center Manatee started me on an artistic path in retirement that I could not have imagined, and I'm not alone. For that reason, I would ask you to grant the funding request made by Art Center Manatee today. As an aside, many years ago, I wrote a letter to the CBS network asking them to not cancel a certain favorite program of mine that was on the chopping block. I received an interesting response. They thanked me for my letter, but they stated something that was very important. They said for every letter they received, they viewed it as representative of 100,000 other people who felt the same way, but for whatever reason didn't write. By way of analogy, I would say that those here who are asking you to approve this funding only represent a small part of the others who feel the same way. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have James Brady.
Mr. Chair, as Mr. Brady is coming, I just wanted to say Mrs. Simon McDonald, she's a co-chair on our Public Art Advisory Board, and we enjoy having her input and contributions, so thank you for everything you do for the board.
Thank you, and congratulations on that award. That's pretty impressive. Sir.
She's a great artist. You got to see her work. I'm Jim Brandis. I'm a board member at Art Center Manatee, and I'm a Bradenton resident. I've been involved in the arts, probably the past 40 years or so. I was instrumental in the building of a new building for an art center and museum about 10, 13 years ago. I could tell you, I saw firsthand the impact that had on the community and the center itself. I mean, we went from having 750 people at an opening to having a few thousand people at an opening. And that accrued not just to the center, but it radiated throughout the entire community. We're going to have increased numbers at Art Center Manatee as well. Art Center Manatee is going to be a gathering place for events. We're going to have weddings there. We're going to have corporate events. You know, we're going to be able to expand our offerings to our constituents, our adult learners, the children of this community, and the artists that we serve. As Carla said, you know, we're not just going to participate culturally, we're going to do so economically as well. You know, when you think about Art Center Manatee, you really got to think long term. I mean, 1937 is a long time ago, right? So we're going to be around many, many years into the future. So if you take $600,000 and you amortize it over the next 60 years, you got to ask yourself, is Art Center Manatee worth $10,000 a year to this community? I think we're worth a heck of a lot more than that, I'll tell you. So I'm proud to be part on the board at Art Center Manatee. I'm proud to be part of this community. I think the future is extremely bright. So right now we need your help. You know, this $600,000 is going to make a big difference in our campaign. And what's also extremely important is that, you know, you're going to send a message to the rest of the community. And that message is that basically you believe that Art Center Manatee is worth it. You know, that bears repeating. You can actually say it too. Art Center Manatee is worth it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.
Did
Harold
he do
Bintz.
some of our postcards? Did he do some of our postcards, I think? Were you the artist on some of the postcards? Was he the artist for some of the postcards, Brandis? No. A different Brandis? Okay.
It's a different guy.
Oh, sorry.
In 2020, arts and cultural organizations added $876.7 billion to the U.S. economy. That's 4.2% of the gross national product. In the state of Florida, that number of value add was $32.5 billion. That's a big number. Cultural audiences spend an average of about $32 per person per event every time they come to an activity. And that does not include admission costs for those places where there is admission. To talk specifically about the Art Center Manatee, I'm certain that many of you today here have attended one of the monthly exhibitions, and you have seen the number and the diversity of people who attend just the opening events, let alone those who view the galleries throughout the time that the exhibit is open. They buy the original works of art that are for sale in the retail space, which helps to support many local artists. Bradenton made progress by establishing the Village of the Arts and invested in public art, but the Art Center is now bursting at the seams in its 1950 building. It's in dire need of additional exhibit space as well as upgraded facilities to help a new generation of people in creative arts. So why is this important to you? Because with it, you're adding to the quality of life in our community. That draws people to this area. I moved to Bradenton 5 years ago from Ohio. I could have moved to a number of places, and I looked at a number of places in Florida. I looked at Fort Myers, Naples, Englewood, Venice, as well as Bradenton. And I knew people in each of those places, people who had already been transplants. And I chose Bradenton. And I chose Bradenton because of, and I will name them, the Riverwalk, the Downtown Library, the Bishop Museum, the Performing Arts Center, and last but certainly not least, the Art Center Manatee. It's these places that make people want to visit here and to live here. So please vote your financial support to help the Art Center Manatee. Thank you.
And Jacqueline Taylor.
Jacqueline Taylor, and I'm from Lakewood Ranch. Some of you may know me. I have been very active in the Village of the Arts. I served on that board for a couple of years, bought several properties over there and rehabbed them, took them down to their bones and rebuilt them. Some of them were boarded up at the time. So made quite a bit of an investment, my husband and I, into the community, and we don't live in Bradenton. But the Art Center Manatee, looking for some place that I could take a class, is what originally brought me over here. And the night that my class was supposed to start, I wanted to get something to eat, and I found Arts and Eats restaurant in the Village of the Arts. And the rest of it was history. My husband and I have supported both the Village, as well as Realize Bradenton, and the Arts Center. The Arts Center attracts people to come here, and as a result, we spend money here, we invest. We often go to restaurants now. Bradenton has become our basically backyard. I think we spend more time here in Bradenton than we actually do in our own community. It's a wonderful community, and the Arts Center absolutely brings a great deal to it. I'm not going to speak to all the finances. I didn't come here, and everybody has said that. But I am going to tell you that it attracts people from all over the county. And as a result, that attraction invests in your community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Robert Moran.
Some of you do know me. Rob Moran. I live at 6904 Arbor Oak Circle. I basically have lived in Bradenton for 44 years. I've been coming here for 65 years. My grandparents got married on Anna Maria Island and had their honeymoon there. So we have a long history with this area. At present, I am on the board of Art Center Manatee. My mom is the one who introduced me to Art Center Manatee. She took watercolor lessons here for probably 25 or 30 years. She lived on the island, and she would constantly say, Rob, you have got to see what it's like. Well, I hate to say this, Mary Ann Barnaby is the one who finally dragged me into it, but I have fallen in love with Art Center Manatee, and it is, as I tell everyone, it's a jewel in the crown of Bradenton, so I hope that you will heartily support our request for funding. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, Linda Enberg.
I am Linda Enberg, and I think I've mentioned to you before, when my husband and I were deciding where to relocate for retirement, we made the decision to come to the west coast of Florida, but to come specifically to Bradenton to settle here. The thing that attracted us to this area, as you have heard, is the rich fabric of arts and culture that we have here. In fact, the reputation was the key factor that motivated us to buy a home and become taxpayers here. As the area grows, and we know it is growing, east, especially to the east, we must maintain our reputation for having a good quality of life here, which has to include the arts. Or folks will settle somewhere else, and businesses will follow them to somewhere else. Based on a calculator from the Americans for the Arts, the Arts Center's annual economic impact 5 years ago was calculated to be $2.9 million a year when we expand. And that is probably more now, but that is the number that I could find easily. We all know that vibrant cities have to have vibrant art environments. Just take St. Petersburg as an example. St. Petersburg was not doing too well 15 years ago, but because their art environment became rich, St. Petersburg has developed accordingly. So to invest in the Arts Center, a strikingly successful community art resource, is to invest in a key component for a vibrant city. You want more taxpayers and businesses in the downtown to support the downtown CRA? Keep the Art Center strong. Thank you, and happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you very much. So we should probably have a motion and then we're discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am?
I would like to make a motion to approve funding assistance to Art Center Manatee towards the creation of a community park and sculpture garden in the amount of $600,000, $200,000 each year for the next 3 years. The funding can go towards the demolition of the existing building, preparation of the site, procurement of public art, landscaping, installation of pathways and signs, and reimbursement will occur after the CRA has received payment receipts for those costs.
Second.
Okay, that is a motion and a second. Discussion?
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Mr. Director, well, this will continue, obviously, to stay in the CRA, so it doesn't, upset our funding, so it's always going to be there. And is this property now, this may be a question also for legal, is this property on lease from the city, or is it already been through Riverfront Partners, or has it been deeded?
Mr. Chairman, the property is still under lease right now. They have a request in for the city to deed that property.
So at this point, it is city property on lease to Riverfront Partners. Ms. Iron, have you ran that by conflict counsel?
We don't have a
I'm not sure that I needed to, but if I missed something, let me know.
Well, I understand that the company that's going to build it is NDC. That's what I was told. I don't know, maybe that's changed.
Mr. Chairman,
Is that true?
I see someone that wanted to speak to this.
Yes, sir.
Sure, I think I have some answers to Counselor's questions.
Okay.
Which might be helpful. So there was a request, basically, by Riverfront Partners to transfer title, fee title, which the city owns. The overall parcel is leased to various entities, basically, and at the present time, the city holds the 150-year, it's a 150-year lease of the master space, basically. And so there was a request as it relates to deeding the property in fee ownership, meaning complete ownership, to various property owners, including the Arts Center Manatee and ultimately Catalyst as well. If you remember, at the last meeting, Catalyst was in requesting, I think it was under section 2251, they had a request for, I was looking up as we spoke, and that is an amendment to the plan development agreement that's in place. That's what came before you. If you were wondering, that's what I was trying to do. So I spoke with Mr. Vogler, and I said, here's a little bit of the problem after speaking with Mr. Rudisell. And Mr. Rudisell and I kind of compared notes, is that there's a couple things going on. First, ownership of the property, where it is exactly within the CRA, outside the CRA, and Katarina started to speak about that. We need to make sure that if it is within the CRA, that we comply with Florida Statute 165, which means basically if you're going to transfer property ownership from one entity to another, just like we consider it with City Hall, you have to basically publicly notice it for 30 days. So that was the first issue that we have to deal with as it relates to transferring the ownership. The second issue was the structure that was proposed was to transfer the fee ownership directly to Riverfront Partners, who would then transfer it to Manatee Arts Center, and we're not so sure that's the best way to do it. There might be tax benefits for them that we may or may not be concerned with at the city, but we wanted to explore that. And to this extent, Mr. Vogler and myself and Mr. Rudisell agreed that we would probably try to talk through these things in January and report back to either the CRA or council as it relates to those two entities. Manatee Arts Center before you, I think there's good support, an awesome program that they have and everything else, but we have to make sure that the technicality of the transaction itself is compliant with law and city policy, and that's what we're trying to do.
Mike, I have some questions. So we kind of got the cart before the horse, really, because we should make sure we get through those details before we vote on transfer of money, even though that's going to come down the road. So, that's just my personal opinion, but and I'm for this. Don't take that wrong. That I'm trying to find a way against it. But we've got a very complicated agreement there with Riverfront Partners that I've been trying to understand for 4 years. And I've asked for this 150-year lease directly to you, Mr. Perry, and I have not been provided with that. Can I get that lease, since you mentioned it just 2 seconds ago, can I get that today?
I don't think you can get it today. That lease has been, I think it was originated in the 1980s and has been amended many, many, many times through different types of things. I don't fully understand it. And I would probably have to sit down for literally 4 to 8 hours with a lawyer going through each amendment, how it took place and the like.
Absolutely.
As far as the record goes,
I agree with you.
Itself, it's interesting because when you ask for it, I asked Corey to try to, because we have what we call property files. And we try to assemble it, but they're in different places and the like, and so we're trying to get that together.
And the only thing that's been provided to me was the one in the late 90s, and that looked like the first draft, which was a 99-year lease. So when Mr. Vogler was here a few weeks ago and said there was a 150-year lease, my eyes lit up. Now, I haven't seen that. I'd like to see the language. I've seen all the amendments. I think there's been 4 amendments. But what this is for the public is this property is all owned by the city of Bradenton, commonly referred to as the old sand pile. And we, Riverfront Development, formed a partnership back in the day to lease this from the city, and then they've built apartments, they've built condos, they've built lots of things on that property. The Manatee Players Performing Arts is there. I don't know if that's deeded separately. That's a question I have. But anyway, it's very complicated. I agree with you. Probably 4 to 8 hours wouldn't do it justice. So, but I, as a councilman now, and I know I'm leaving, but I still have an interest in this from the public's viewpoint.
If I could jump
Hold
in.
on a second. This is important.
Yeah, I noticed.
Okay. So, Mr. Ridicell, I've asked you, Mr. Vogler was a partner in your law firm at the time this was consummated. Now, I sent you an email, it was very direct, and asked you to respond, and you haven't responded. And I don't know why, but I'm going to ask you today. Why haven't you responded that you have conflict because of what this arrangement was previously there, and now you would have a conflict because the construction company that's going to do all this building is now represented by your law firm. So why haven't you recused yourself, and why hasn't we've presented this to conflict counsel? Here we go again.
Here we go again with you.
Right, I know,
Correct.
it's all my problem. Right, I understand.
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Vogler.
Is that your answer?
I mean-
If I'm the problem, then that's the end of it.
Okay.
You don't think there's a conflict?
That is correct, and we told you that during the hearing, and.
Well, I don't care what you told me, that it's definitely a conflict in my opinion, and it's something that has to be brought before the Ethics Commission.
Okay, well, now we're completely off topic.
No, we're not off topic.
Yeah, we are. So
that's your opinion.
having been here and remember some questions that are being done. When the Bradenton players were next door and they wanted to move over to this site, the city helped with that. I was on the board. I met with the players over there, and it was a food fight on my part. I was the recipient. But then we came to an agreement. The property is a very similar situation. The property was owned by, it had the lease by the partners, owned by the city, and then what we had done was we'd worked out and we loaned them, I believe it was about $2.5 million in 3 installments, and we made an agreement with them that if they paid it back in a certain amount of time, that we would forego something. I forget what it was. That we would help, we would sign the deed over. So this exact arrangement existed previously, and the city spent, I believe it was 3 installments that equaled about $2.5 million. So that figure I'm not sure of, but the facts are it was owned by the city, leased by the, and we were able to give the money, and then we got it paid back.
What was the parking lot across the street part of that? Is because we just extend. That was a different. That was a different 2 million.
No, it was not. No, it wasn't.
You said no. You
this is
said
what-
yes.
No, I said it was not part of the original agreement with the Manatee Performing Arts Center.
Correct.
So it was a separate agreement, a $2 million loan that we still have with that. I assume.
No, it was, they paid it off because that was the.
No, we just lowered the interest rate on it.
Well, that's a different loan, Mr. Sanders.
Different loan? It was on, what's on that parking lot, I think.
Mr. Chairman.
The arrangement we made was that if they paid the loan back in time, we would transfer the title. So the point is that it is possible to do this because we've already done it.
And Mr. Chairman, for purposes of Art Center Manatee and their request today, I think
Yeah.
it's fairly simple that it can be done contingent upon them getting fee
Right.
ownership
Exactly,
in the
and I'll be
property.
happy to change the motion saying that.
No, you already had it covered because it says reimbursement will occur after payment for hard costs,
Yeah.
so you're covered.
It's
But with
covered.
your, none of this can happen until it happens.
Okay.
Okay, and I just had a comment as well, because I am wholeheartedly in favor of this, and it is the gateway to our downtown from coming over the Green Bridge. I think that the economic development from it, and I totally, wholeheartedly agree, it's one of the jewels in our crown. I do want to say, though, outside of that, I think I'd like us to, in the future, be very judicious about giving to nonprofits not because it has nothing to do with the value of the project. It has to do with our, the TIF and the funding tool that we're using. So I can bring myself wholeheartedly in favor of this, but I just feel like I have to make that comment for anything in the future.
Okay. And I want to make a comment that as I just cleaned out my office and I'm putting my plaques away, one of my valued plaques is from my service on the board of the Art Center Manatee. So and I know that this was being talked about way back then. So thank you for bringing this forward. It's beautiful. Persistence always gets it.
So can we take a vote?
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Thank you.
I would just like to say thank you to you, Councilman Roth, and Councilman Sanders, for your service. I know you're coming off the board, and I'd also like to say that I have completely enjoyed working with your executive director. She's made this process very easeful and helped me move it along in a timely, efficient manner. So thank you.
Very, very good.
Again, happy
And-
holidays, and thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. And that's why I thought she did a very clever job of working out how it could be transferred from one spot to the other. And I know a future retiree that will probably be knocking on your doors in the future.
For watercolor.
Yeah, thank you. All right, other discussions or new business?
Just to echo, I know this is the last meeting for the two of you up here, so I just wanted to thank you for your service. I wish you all the best. May you have health, and again, just it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, thank
Ditto.
you.
Ditto.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays, everybody.